Hello, class, and welcome to the analysis of The Chronicle of the Peacocks by Intizar Hussain. In our previous videos, we have already discussed a detailed summary of this particular chapter, of this particular story, and I hope that you are now familiar with the story. In this particular video, we will be dealing with the important concepts and the um, entire theme of this particular story. So to begin with, we have already talked about how Intizar Hussain is one of the greatest chroniclers of the partition between India and Pakistan, and we also talked about how he himself was a victim of the partition in the sense that he has a personal experience of the partition and it is something that caused him great pain, and that is why his writings on the partition are something that have a very personal touch to them. Also, he also in his works he talks about environmental degradation. He talks about religious fundamentalism. All right, so he is a person who in his works is dealing with how the past was a much better time than the present, and he also is continually asking humans to learn from their mistakes, to change their paths. Okay, he's warning us. It's almost like all of his works are a warning to us to improve our ways before the entire world comes to an end due to our own deeds. All right, in this particular story also, a chronicle of the peacocks, or Mornama, as he originally titled it. This is a translated version that we are studying, right? So Mornama seeks to imaginatively recreate the shape of the entire civilizational history of the subcontinent. Okay, and how does he do that? He does this by finding analogies for the historical experience of the partition. All right, and he uses his personal experiences of exile, of being, having to leave the place that he grew up in. Okay, and he uses all of this in this particular work. As Hussain seeks to recreate a tolerant, pluralistic past, the story digs deep into more than the reality of the loss of home. It is partition is not only about the loss of a home; it is much more. Okay, and he talks about this by using the analogies of animals. He talks about the fish. He talks about the peacocks, basically, and lastly, he talks about the ducks. Okay, all of these are symbols of the foul spirit, of the evil spirit of the times that we are living in. All right, he begins the story by telling us that an evil spirit is following him, but he does not tell us who this evil spirit is. Okay, so the first paragraph, the first few lines, he says that I am shocked and upset because there is an evil spirit following me, and I did not do anything wrong for this evil spirit to follow me. It's just that I had gone to inquire about the well-being of the peacocks, and when I went to do that, this evil spirit started following me. Okay, now it is only towards the end of the story that he tells us that this evil spirit is actually Ashwathama, the criminal of Kurukshetra. Okay, but before he does that, there is a whole juxtaposition of time and space happening throughout the story. He keeps moving from one time period to another, just as he is moving from one place to another. All right, so he begins the story by telling us about a news item that he read in the newspaper, and this news item, the context of the story and this news item is actually the nuclear testing that India conducted in Pokhran. All right, and please read up about it when you get time. So this nuclear testing resulted in an explosion which scared away the peacocks. Okay, and while the newspapers focused only on the nuclear explosion and its merits and demerits, there was a very small column that described that the peacocks of Rajasthan were very scared and terrified, and so they all flew away. Now the author, he was more concerned about the peacocks than about anything else, than about the explosion, its demerits and merits. All right, so he felt like he should do something about this particular thing that is bothering him. The situation of the peacocks is bothering him, so he felt like he should do something about it. So what he does is that he decides to write a column in the newspaper about the plight of the peacocks. But before he writes this Moornama or his chronicle of the peacocks, he felt like he should think about peacocks a little bit, and that is how he starts by remembering, the peacocks that he saw in Jaipur many years ago. Then he remembers the peacocks that he saw in his home as his childhood. Then he talks about the peacocks of Indraprastha. There are other birds that come into the story, like the duck in the Gulf Stream. There's the swans of Mansarovar. Okay, all of these, the peaceful picture is a juxtaposition to the reality of today. All right. So to begin with, this particular story talks about the pain of partition. It talks about the pain of being exiled, of being, sent away from home. Like when he talks about the peacock who was exiled, who was sent away from paradise. Peacock is the bird of paradise. His grandmother tells him, right? But it was exiled from that heaven. Why? It was not his fault. It was because he was tricked by Satan, right? So being exiled from your own homeland due to no fault of yours is a direct analogy to the experience of partition, of how you are forced to leave from your place, but you have not done anything wrong. It's the deeds of others that result in such an exile. Okay, it the story talks about lost memories, and that is why he continually goes and remembers the time when the peacocks of Rajasthan were very welcoming and very friendly. The memories take him back to the battle of Kurukshetra, and he goes to Indraprastha. He remembers the swans of Mansarovar. Okay, so all these are the direct analogies of partition. All right, of a more peaceful time, of a more better time, of a time where people were much more tolerant. Okay, um, so this entire story can be considered to be an allegory where he's saying something, but he's actually describing something else. The character of Ashwathama, okay, as we have discussed earlier, becomes a symbol of the evil deeds of human beings. Okay, all the evil things that we do that result in the destruction of the natural world, all the evil things that we do that result in destruction in any manner as such, are symbolic. Okay, and this character of Ashwathama is symbolic to all of those wrong things that we do. And why Ashwathama is introduced into the story is to show us that, in Kurukshetra, what happened in Kurukshetra, it was futile. Even though you can say that one side won and the other side lost, um, the loss of life, the loss of livelihood, the loss of resources that happened as a result of the battle of Kurukshetra was much more than the triumph of victory that they had. Okay, and this is the case in every war. The Second World War was won, but it was won at the expense of the of Hiroshima and Nagasaki burning under the nuclear explosion. All right, and the after effects of that explosion are being suffered by people who belong to that place even today, years after that particular explosion. Okay, so who won and who lost in a war? All right, that doesn't matter, because the sufferings that is inflicted upon millions of innocent people is much more than any gains that you can get from a war. All right, from winning a war. So in this particular work, Intizar Hussain talks about the futility of war, of how it is useless. War is useless. Okay, it is futile. It will not give you any decisive result, because you will, even if you win in that particular war, you will have lost a lot. All right, and the horrors that happen as a result of war, the kind of horrors that you see on a battlefield, okay, it is something that is very unnecessary. All right, so that is what he's trying to preach through this particular work, that war should be done away with, because there are no winners in war. All right, when he gives us the example of what happened in Kurukshetra with Arjuna and Ashwathama releasing the Brahmastra and the woman becoming barren. All right, what he wants to tell us is that we should learn from our past mistakes. All right, and that is why in this story he keeps going back to the past and coming back to the present, and he's doing this juxtaposition to show us the contrast between the two times. All right. And he's telling us that, we should learn from our past mistakes. We should learn from the past wars and the past horrors that we have seen, that war and violence is futile. Okay. And Ashwathama, as the criminal of Kurukshetra, lives within all of us. He is following all of us. Why is he following us? So that we realize this futility of war, so that we do something against it. Okay, that is what he's trying to tell us by introducing Ashwathama into the story. All right. And basically, when he talks about the birds, the Mansarovar swans, the ducks in the Gulf Stream, and the peacocks, he's talking about a destruction of the natural order. All right, he's telling us how, due to the destruction of the natural order, it is these poor birds, poor helpless birds, who are suffering the most, and they become, like prophets who are sacrificing their lives, who are doing a sacred duty. All right, by sacrificing their lives for us. All right, that is why he juxtaposes the picture of, the peacocks of Rajasthan, who are beautiful and graceful, and then the next image is that of a peacock who is battered and bruised and sitting on a hill, and that peacock is afraid of humans. But it was not so earlier, right? The peacocks were welcoming earlier, but now they are scared and terrified. All right. And then when he introduces that story of the duck, all right, in the Gulf Stream, he is saying that, this is not the case only with India or Pakistan. In the global context also, this applies. In the Gulf War, many innocent lives were lost. All right. And it was all done for the profit of a few people. All the other reasonings that were given were all false. Okay. It was only done for the control of oil reservoirs. All right. And this shift to a global context shows us that, it's not only locally but even globally, this is a very big issue. And he talks about how in every violent act, okay, in every act of violence, it is the helpless and it is the innocent who suffer the most. Okay. And that is why those innocent and those helpless beings, okay, may it be the birds, may it be humans like us, okay, who suffer, they are the ones who suffer, and they are not able to do anything about it. There is no one to help them, there's no one to ease their suffering. All right. So we as fellow human beings should realize our duty, and realize that, we should do our part in at least saying out loud that war is futile and we should not practice violence. All right. And this entire piece is a powerful condemnation of violence. He's condemning violence. Okay. And he's telling us that, there is no good that is to come out of violence. And that is why this entire story as such is in the form of a journey through the past and through the present, through various places. All right. Various times, various good times and bad times. Why is he showing us all of these times? He's showing us the peaceful times of the Gautama Buddha and Indraprastha. Those are all the beautiful times that we had. Okay. And we can regain back all of that if we stop practicing violence. All right. And towards the end of the story, we realize that Ashwathama's shadow, he thinks that once he crosses his national borders and reaches his homeland, he will be able to get rid of Ashwathama. But when he reaches his home, he turns back and he realizes that Ashwathama is still following him. Okay. And why is that? Why is he unable to get rid of Ashwathama? Because this is not a local thing. Okay. It is a global reality. The horrors of war is a global reality. Okay. And you cannot get rid of the horrors of war by just passing away from that place, that memory, that pain. Okay. It will follow you everywhere. It will follow you until you die. All right. And that is why Ashwathama is following him. It's not that Ashwathama has not completed his 3,000 years. He has, or maybe he hasn't. All right. But he is the one who is the symbol of all the evil things that we do. And this symbol, this shadow, will follow us throughout our life until we decide to mend our ways. Another shadow that he talks about in this particular story is the shadow of the question that Parikshit asks. Okay, and that question is something that we are unable to answer. Why, when all we have all these wise men who are very, very intelligent and smart, why are we still having wars? Don't they realize that wars are futile? Okay, so those are the two shadows that we take from these stories, the shadow of the evil things that we do, and the shadow of the big question that Parikshit asked, why do we fight? All right, so these are the two questions that cannot be answered. These are the two shadows that will follow us everywhere unless we begin to mend our ways. All right, I hope that this chapter was understandable for you all. Thank you.